Is Howie Roseman about to pull the trigger on a move that will leave the rest of the NFC East in absolute shambles? The Philadelphia Eagles are sitting on a powder keg at pick number 23, and the intel coming out of the scouting world suggests a strategy so bold. It's being called a masterclass in roster manipulation. We're talking about a move that could effectively end the career of a franchise legend or ship off a superstar wide receiver in a trade that would rock the foundation of the city of brotherly love. If you think you know what the Birds are doing with their first-round pick, you are dead wrong, because the biggest names in NFL analysis can't even agree on whether the Eagles are building a wall or loading a cannon. Before we dive in, smash that subscribe button if you want the fastest NFL updates on the planet. The clock is ticking toward the draft, and the tension in Philadelphia is reaching a boiling point. We've scoured every major mock draft, from the titans of the industry to the deep-cut scouts, to figure out exactly how this roster is going to evolve. The Eagles have always been a team that plays chess while everyone else plays checkers, but this year, the stakes are higher than ever. With aging icons on the offensive line and a wide receiver room that might be facing a massive salary cap explosion, the front office is backed into a corner. But as we know, that's exactly where they do their best work. Who is the one player the Eagles absolutely cannot afford to pass on at 23? Drop a name in the comments right now. Let's start with the heavy hitters. The legendary Mel Kiper has been crunching the tape, and his prediction for the Birds is nothing short of a developmental gamble that could pay off in a massive way. He's pointing toward the desert, specifically at Arizona State offensive tackle Max Iheanachor. Now, if you haven't seen this kid's tape, it is pure electricity massed in a massive 6 feet 6 inches, 321-pound frame. We're talking about an athlete who didn't even pick up a football until 2021. Think about that for a second. While most of these prospects were playing pee-wee ball in high school varsity, Iheanachor was likely on a basketball court, and you can see it in his feet. He moved through the 40-yard dash in a blistering 4.91 seconds. For a man that size, that isn't just fast, it's borderline. The logic here is classic Philadelphia. Howie Roseman has a history of being a year early rather than a year late. We saw it with the legendary Fletcher Cox. We saw it with the heartbeat of the team, Jason Kelce. The Eagles don't wait for a hole to open up. They draft the replacement while the legend is still wearing the jersey. Lane Johnson is the gold standard for right tackles in this league, but he isn't getting any younger. By bringing in a guy like Iheanachor, the Eagles are essentially putting a Ferrari in the garage while the reliable Bentley is still on the road. He's raw, he's traits heavy, and he needs a mentor. Learning behind Lane Johnson would be like a PhD program in pass protection. But wait until you hear why some scouts think this pick is a total disaster waiting to happen compared to the other options on the board. While Kiper is looking at the high-upside project from Arizona State, other top-tier analysts like Daniel Jeremiah are looking toward the SEC powerhouse of Alabama. Jeremiah, who actually spent time in the trenches with Howie Roseman as a scout, is mocking Kadyn Proctor to the Eagles. This is a completely different animal. Proctor is a mountain of a man, reportedly tipping the scales near 400 pounds at one point before slimming down to a more agile 360-pound for the draft process. He is 6 feet 7 inches and has the kind of raw power that can literally erase defenders from a screen. The Jeremiah theory aligns with the Kiper theory on one major point: insurance. Lane Johnson is under contract through 2027, but in the NFL, under contract and on the field are two very different things. Proctor offers a unique versatility that Iheanachor might lack. There's a very real belief that Proctor could slide inside to guard and dominate immediately while he waits for his turn at tackle. However, there's a massive red flag here that we have to address. Alabama offensive tackles have had a checkered history in the NFL lately. For every Landon Dickerson, who has been an absolute home run for the Birds, there are a handful of Crimson Tide tackles who struggled to adapt to the speed of the professional game. Is Proctor the next great cornerstone, or is he just a massive body?
It really dictates the defense.
But the offensive line isn't the only place where the Eagles might be planning a heist. There's a whisper growing into a roar that the wide receiver room might be in for a violent shakeup. And that leads us to a scenario that would leave Eagles fans stunned. Imagine a world where the Eagles move on from a superstar. The rumors surrounding A.J. Brown have been swirling like a hurricane. While he's still the alpha in that room, the financial reality of the NFL means that after June 1st, things get very interesting from a salary cap perspective. If the Eagles feel they can't sustain the cost, they might look to the draft to find the next great playmaker. Enter Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. This is the pick that Field Yates is banging the table for at 23. Cooper isn't just a receiver, he's a weapon. At the NFL Combine, his character scores were off the charts, but it's his YAC ability, yards after catch, that has scouts salivating. He averaged over 7 yards after the catch in 2025. He has the frame of a Deebo Samuel, but, dare I say, better hands and more refined route running. He's a wide-back style player who isn't afraid to stick his face into a defender's chest to block for Saquon Barkley. Think about that pairing. Saquon in the backfield and a guy like Cooper crushing defensive backs on the perimeter. It's a physical nightmare for any defensive coordinator. In the last 2 seasons, Cooper has found the end zone 20 times and only dropped the ball 4 times. That kind of reliability is exactly what a quarterback like Jalen Hurts needs if the veteran stars start moving on. But the Eagles wouldn't stop there in this scenario. If they go receiver in the first, they have to address the trenches in the second. And that brings us to a name you won't forget, Jennings Dunker. Aside from having the best name and the most legendary mullet in the draft class, Dunker is a total dog on the offensive line. He played right tackle at Iowa, a program known for churning out pro-ready linemen, and didn't surrender a single sack in the entire 2025 season. He has the versatility to play guard or tackle, which is a massive plus for a team like Philly that dealt with a revolving door of injuries last year with Juergens, Dickerson, and Johnson all missing time. However, there is another school of thought. Todd McShay, who is now providing deep dive analysis for The Ringer, thinks the Eagles are destined to stick to their roots. He agrees with the Kadyn Proctor assessment, but for a very specific reason, the cliff. According to McShay, there are 7 elite offensive tackles in this draft, and after those 7 are gone, the talent level drops off a literal cliff. If the Eagles don't grab one at 23, they might be left wandering in the wilderness. McShay's breakdown of Proctor is fascinating. He calls him a traits-based prospect who showed massive improvement during his tenure at Alabama. While his balance and hand placement are still works in progress, you cannot coach 6 feet 7 inches, 325 pounds, and 34-inch arms. His lower body explosion is historic. He recorded a 32.5-inch vertical jump, the highest for a player of his weight class in over 20 years. If he can't cut it at tackle, his floor is an all-pro caliber guard. He's been compared to Mekhi Becton, but with a much higher ceiling and fewer injury concerns coming out of school. So, where does that leave us? The Eagles are at crossroads. Do they take the raw, athletic freak in Max Iheanachor and bank on their coaching staff to turn him into the next Lane Johnson? Do they take the SEC powerhouse Kadyn Proctor and secure the interior and exterior of the line for the next decade? Or do they shock the world, prepare for a life without A.J. Brown, and draft a dynamic playmaker like Omar Cooper Jr. to ignite the offense alongside Saquon Barkley? The strategy of Howie Roseman has always been about the long lens. He isn't just drafting for 2026, he's drafting for 2030. Every move is a calculated step in a much larger game. The curiosity gap here is massive. If they pass on a tackle now, and Lane Johnson takes a step back or gets hit with the injury bug, the entire season could derail. But if they pass on a receiver and the A.J. Brown situation turns sour, Jalen Hurts loses his primary target. The debate is raging in the scouting community. Is it better to have a traits-heavy project who can run like a deer, or a mountain of a man who can move earth but needs technical refinement? Or is the real value found in the second round with a guy like Jennings Dunker, who might be the most Philadelphia prospect in the entire draft? This draft is going to define the next era of Eagles football. Whether it's the offensive line or the receiving core, the Birds are preparing to swoop in and steal the best talent available. The tension is real, the stakes are astronomical, and the fallout from pick 23 will be felt for years to come. Would you like me to break down the defensive prospects the Eagles might be eyeing in the third round to bolster that secondary?